I just sharpened the chain off of my Poulan Wild Thing. It has a 18-inch bar. I did a time lapse sharpening this chain, but I should have had a more in-depth video on this because it was just a really good learning experience on this chain. It was in really bad shape, but since I time lapsed it and I wasn't just kind of talking and jabbing my mouth the whole time, I really took my time on each tooth, and while the time lapse was going, I just kind of did my own thing, and I came up with some new techniques while I was doing this. My biggest problem with showing these teeth up close is that my GoPro is an action camera, so it's not made to zoom in and be clear close up. And so that's like half my problem right now. I really need to get kind of a different camera. But I guess the best way to explain this, what I was doing, instead of locking this down every single time that I was going to sharpen this chain, I kind of like backed this off a little more than I really needed to. And you might notice I always have my left hand pulling on this chain. Now, this thing's made in China, has plastic components. I mean, it's not a professional, it'll do a good job sharpening chain. It's just not super professional. The clearances on this thing are like, you know, even when it's locked in, you can still kind of get it to move just because things flex on this, you know? Like, I'll try to keep my hand holding this camera still, but like, watch the chain. Okay, that tooth is still in contact with this metal piece. I don't know if you can see that. It's still in contact, and I'm moving the chain. So I came up with this thing where, with my right hand, when I'm coming down with this, I can actually pull back with my left hand as to make sure not to grind off too much of the tooth. And then if I want to, I can actually like let off the tension off of my left hand, and it allows, I'm trying to show this. Okay, right now I have tension on it, now I'm letting off tension. See how it moved? It went forward like a millimeter or half a millimeter. I mean, barely noticeable, right? But that actually releases that chain back into this blade. So it's a really kind of a good technique of not taking too much material off, but also starting real light, barely grinding it, and then working your way in. This technically is my 4th video on this Forester Sharpener, and I've had a lot of people kind of have concern over, you know, how well I'm sharpening my chains. And in the first video, I know for sure that I completely massacred a chain, but the chain was already kind of junk anyway. But now I'm starting to get it down. So I'm taking off the minimum amount of material to get it as sharp as possible, to try and preserve the teeth on this chain so then I can, you know, get a lot more life out of it. So if you grind too much material off, you're not going to have a lot of life left in your chain. And then you don't want some of these teeth, you know, with more material and some with less. You know, when you get into the whole realm of, you know, grinding down your rakers and having some teeth above the rakers and some of them well below it, you're going to start having problems. So, and like I said in my last video on this sharpener, I don't want to custom sharpen every tooth and have them all be different sizes and all different angles. I don't want to mess with this. I'm doing these at 30. I just switch directions, you know, because the teeth are staggered, but I don't want to custom sharpen every tooth. The whole point of this is to be fast. So, but I actually blew through this chain pretty fast and kind of was halfway through. I was developing that technique with my left hand. So Another thing too is I noticed as I changed directions and then started going through the second set of teeth, is I was seeing the first teeth that I sharpened, and I could see on some of them I wasn't far down enough, and some of them I was. Like that one's good. I've kind of been catching my imperfections, the things I've been doing wrong, as I go through more. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. See, a lot of these are good, but there's a few though. That one's good. There's a few that I caught. So if I really wanted to, I could switch this back over and do some of the other teeth. But I'm really more concerned about the tip of this tooth up here where it's truly sharp, where it contacts the wood. I'm not so concerned about getting this wheel as far. I'm not too concerned about getting this wheel super far down. Obviously I never hit any of the links, but there is kind of a certain distance that you can go down on this tooth to maximize the part of the tooth that cuts. But anyway, so that's a whole other thing. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'm just kind of concerned about getting this top part real sharp. But as I do this more and more, I'm getting better at it, and I'm learning as I'm kind of examining my own work. So let's see. I don't know how well this thing's gonna do. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, this is tough. You can't see that. Try to do this here to the best of my abilities. It's really hard to have a camera tripod in your way when you're doing this. You're on the wrong side of that. Hold on. How about that? Okay, hold on. Whoops. There we go. Okay, I don't know how focused this is right now by looking at my GoPro screen, so I apologize. It's probably not focusing very good. It's probably blurry, but anyway. So I have my right hand on the part that goes down, and then my left hand on the chain, right? Okay. See that right there? This wheel is not touching that chain. See that? No sparks, right? Okay, now it didn't do it then, but I can actually hand push that chain in there. Which is kind of funny. It's a barbaric way of doing this. And you'll notice I didn't lock this down, obviously, which you're supposed to, you know. Supposed to lock that down and not have to. You're not supposed to really use two hands, but it's kind of a really fine-tune it. It's incredibly sharp. Yeah, this tooth is kind of a piece of crap, so let's try this. Even though it's already sharpened, see how that doesn't. That actually looks better. So anyways, I don't know if that's like a technique that's okay to do or whatever. I guess if it's your chain and your sharpener, you do what you want. But it kind of works. Yeah, that looks real good. And I mentioned in one of my other videos on this thing that if I were to change anything about it, I would move the on-off button to down here. Like if they re-engineered it and remanufactured it, which they probably won't. They're gonna capitalize on the plans they already have for making this. But if I were to redo it, I'd want the buttons down here. But I actually just, for some reason in my head the other day, the thought came up. One day I was at Harbor Freight and I noticed that they had those foot pedals for tools that go on the ground. I don't know if it's like a click once for on, then click again for off, or if you have to hold it to have power. I don't know. But I saw a foot pedal thing for tools, and it's so easy. You plug the pedal into the wall, and then you plug your tool into the pedal, and it's like a switch in between your power tool and the wall is all. So you can operate it with your foot, hands free. It's kind of a pain because it's hard to see. You got to go up there and feel around with your hand, and then you always hit the off one, and then you got to, there's on, and then where's off at? Oh my gosh, there's an emergency. I need to kill the machine. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. See how long that took to find the off? And by then your whole hand's already cut off, you know, anyway, so. But, so I thought about getting one of those pedals, really. I mean, it'd be an easy setup. I have my power strip right there. So I might do that. I see at Harbor Freight they're only like $15.99 or $13.99 or something like that. And they do have the ground on the prong. Even though this doesn't have one, you can actually put some pretty heavy tools plugged into those floor pedals. So in another video I had also talked about the rakers. So I'm going to kind of show what I did with that. It requires two hands, but okay, we're gonna back way off here. Keep going. Okay, I think that's good right there. No, you know what? I'm gonna keep going just a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm gonna adjust the height. I just want to show you, I just want to take the smallest little bit off of these rakers, and you can use this to do that. So I want to show that. So I'm loosening the lock on the height adjustment. Okay, so when you turn this height adjustment knob clockwise, it sends that down, which raises you up. See that? We're going up, we're going down, we're going up, we're going down. Okay, so this thing's just all about adjustments. That's just what it is. You really don't need this right now, per se. I mean, you can use it if you want, but okay. Man, just barely taking me off of that raker. And I actually, like when I'm doing my height, I push down on this with my hand and push down on it really hard. And I adjust it that way, because if for some reason you have an adjustment and you push hard on this and it flexes, it can actually go farther than you want it to. So I push down hard on it and then adjust this thing. See that? That's what I mean. It's built in China. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not perfect. It's gonna do weird stuff and probably cause you issues, you know, if you don't. Okay. Now I'm gonna lock this down without turning it, because I don't want that moving. If that moves, we're not gonna be in good business. Okay. Alright, that thing ain't gonna go nowhere. Ain't gonna rotate. Okay, so I don't remember what video it was, but I had talked about how you can actually manually, like, pull. You can push and pull your chain and cut your rakers that way. It's kind of goofy and it's probably not very safe, but I'm going to show this to you. I'm actually not going to use my hands on the chain. I'm going to use this right here. This thing here is supposed to like cinch it down so it won't move, but this part, you can bypass it so easy, you know. Sorry, I had to do a quick battery change. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, this adjustment lever right here, you can even when this lock is down, you can still move it because it's just a cheap unit. So that's just the way it is. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn this on and then I'm gonna do this with my left hand, right? So that's gonna move the raker through the absolute bottom of this wheel, and it's gonna grind that raker down for you. Now, the reason that I don't just find one spot and then come down and bzz, and then you're good is because on this chain's not a big deal, but on some of my chains, the rakers are very long. So this thing is not gonna get the entirety, so you'd have to keep moving it and locking it down and crap. Just use this and just push it through, and I'll show you here. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Okay, we're gonna start right there, and that's what we're gonna do. Okay, here we go. It's gonna be really close. See that? See that? Isn't that funny? Pushing it through. So we're in between the rakers and the tooth now. Isn't that hilarious? So I literally just took a little bit off of the raker. Now, I know you're like, okay, well, that's a process on itself. Why don't you just use a raker file? I do. It's just not as fun. I keep a raker file behind my sharpener back here just in case I want to use it, but I don't know, in my opinion, I think it's a lot cooler doing it this way. You kind of got to like reset your chain. And it's kind of like the same thing. You like, technically you could switch the chain, or you could rotate this and do it a different way, but okay, let's do this. Might take off quite a bit, but whatever. See that? See how much it's taken off? Taken too much. That's my fault. But anyway, that's hilarious. See that? I don't know why that amuses me so much, but it does. Look at the distance. Oh, you probably can't even see it. Maybe you can, I don't know. There's a huge distance between this raker that I just sharpened and the top of this tooth. So this thing's gonna be a cutting machine. Which, you know, honestly, there's probably some things that you may not, like you may not want to do what I just did because it's gonna get your grinding disc all screwed up. Because the reason the bottom of this disc is, you know, a half circle is because your teeth on here, you know, are kind of like that. So you have to, and this is at an angle, so try to show you this here, what I'm talking about. See how, well, my height's not right, but you know what I'm saying. It's circular on the bottom of this, so by going over those rakers, you might actually start flattening this, and you don't want that. So maybe what I'm doing right now is not a good idea, but I'm just screwing around with it. I think it's funny. I do happen to have, I had said, maybe in one of my other videos, I had actually mentioned that I wouldn't mind buying another one of these, and either like having one that's set at this angle. Okay, so like I cut both at 30 degrees and 30 degrees, but you have to change, you know, the position because all these teeth are staggered, right? So you could either have one set like at this angle and then another one set at the other angle, and then you'd never have to change anything. You just have to move the chain, which it's not a big deal to rotate this. You just got to loosen that and spin it. But anyway, you could actually have another one of these, or even buy one of the crappy $25 ones at Harbor Freight that I've heard suck. And you could actually designate one of those to be just for rakers. So if you wanted, you could do all your good teeth sharpening on like this Forester, and then move your chain over to the crappy Chicago Electric and use the technique that I just used to run through these chains, and then, you know, file a little bit off your rakers if you wanted to. It's not like it's the end of the world to take a raker file, you know, and just take a tiny bit off, which, you know, I don't know how accurately I use a raker file anyways. I don't like having to do like, I like machinery to do my work. I don't like shovels. I don't like mauls. I don't like files. You know, I want electric sharpeners. I want mini excavators. I want log splitters, you know. That's how I roll. I like using power equipment. Electricity and fuel is the best thing ever on this planet. But anyway, so that raker thing's kind of cool. I don't know, it amuses me. I'm gonna do it some more. Whoops. Yeah, that one would take a little bit off. Get some fired up. See, barely took any off of there. There is a measurable distance though from the highest part of this tooth to that raker, so better than nothing really. I mean, I don't know why this amuses me. Now I'm pushing a little harder with my right hand. That's funny. Same thing. There is a distance between this raker and then the highest point of that tooth. So I guess in a way I probably have to go through all these rakers now. Out of respect for the Forester, I'm not going to use that technique at the moment, but now I got my mind thinking about a Chicago Electric purely for rakers. And it's still a circular, you know, it's still circular and everything. It'll still function right. I didn't ruin it yet, but well, I guess I'm gonna go through with the raker file and do it the way I'm technically supposed to. Alright, so I went through and pretty much all my rakers look like Mount Crumpet, so I think I did a halfway decent job. But funny thing is about rakers, now I have a raker gauge, but I never use it. Oh wait, no, it's not in here, it's in another thing. Anyway, I have a raker gauge, but I don't use it because my whole chainsaw program is super unprofessional. I don't use the gauge. I just take a little bit off the rakers, and then if it sharpens better, then whatever, that's the way it is. A lot of people freak out over my my inaction or inability to do things a little bit more professionally when it comes to chainsaws. And And I've explained that before. You know, I'm from the Midwest, from the Great Plains. I'm in an area where there's like residential trees, but that's it. There's nothing. It's just open, flat land. Pretty much the farmers ripped down as many trees as they could, so then they could, you know, have more tillage land. So all of our trees are gone, and the only real tree cutting that my area that there is usually in towns or cities, which is where I get a lot of my wood. But anyway, so it's like, for me, I don't care about it as much as some people. Like if you're from Washington State or Oregon or Northern California or Idaho, whatever, wherever all those trees out in the West are, or even Appalachia, or, you know, where there's trees, I get it. That's fine. You know, you got to maintain your equipment very well because it's important to you. You know, tree removal is a big part of your life, or tree management, whatever. But around here, you know, it's not like a big deal for me. But I'm a lot like Andrew Camerata, like when it comes to my time. I will do things that cost me money if it means going faster. And that's how he is, you know, because he's busy and I'm busy. So, you know, some people really take their time and do things really nice, and I applaud that, because that's, you know, that's admirable, you know, because you're doing it properly, you're doing it correct, whatever. So sometimes I seem a little, sometimes just destructive when I do things wrong. But I only do that because I'm busy, and because a couple dollars here and there doesn't bother me. My time is worth so much more. So anyway, funny thing is, if had somebody not actually talked about rakers in the comments on one of my videos like a year and a half ago, I would have never... I think this chain is this chain is from before I knew about rakers. And it's funny because obviously, you know, if you sharpen a chain enough and not touch the rakers, you're gonna get to a point where you level out. You're no longer cutting that well, and then you think the saw is a piece of crap, or you think the chain sucks, or it's the bar, whatever, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I think this is one of those chains that, like, you know, it's still cut, but not very good. And I think now that I did all these rakers, some maybe too much, some maybe not enough, I don't know. But anyway, I think now that I've taken some material off, this is probably going to cut really well. And that is a plus to having people whine at you in the comments about what you're doing. Had somebody not told me about rakers, you know, so I'm glad I figured that out. But other times, you know, people don't give me, you know, their comments aren't constructive at all. They're just, you know, complaining about how I do things. But, you know, it's a free country, and it's my equipment and my money, so I can do things as wrong as I want or as correct. It doesn't, you know. I see people's videos all the time where people do things wrong with like an excavator, tractor, you know, tools, whatever. I never even say anything. Unless their life is in danger, I don't say nothing, because I don't want to be one of those people that whines in the comments all the time, and then they don't even watch the video, and they start typing their comment, and they, you know, never even watched it. So it comes off a little ignorant. But if you have any constructive criticism or any tips, tricks, questions, whatever, let me know. I hope that kind of the things I went through in this video is maybe a little bit helpful. Before this video ends, I'm going to show this chain sharpening on this saw, just to see if not only was my sharpening job good, but did filing these rakers down make any difference with this chain's ability to cut. So, and this Poulan, this is my better Wild Thing of the two, and it runs halfway decent. It runs well enough that if this chain is in good shape, this thing's going to cut all right. So. Now this is supposed to be the one that runs good.